At first, when you're dealing with incontinence, it's a big change in your life. And if you're a person who was very active or trying to be very active, going out and doing things, I used to be a musician, so my job at the time, if I could call it that, it wasn't really a job, I didn't get paid, but I was planning on being in a band at some point and, traveling around. And if that didn't work out, I would at least do solo music and travel around and go from show to show. And well, that's still an active lifestyle, believe it or not. Yeah, you may not be exercising, but you are going out and performing still requires a lot of movement. You're on stage going, I was a vocalist, so that was a big part of my life. And also you go from place to place, so that still is a somewhat active life. Incontinence, once you start dealing with it, it's not that you can't do these things for a living. It adds another issue into your life, especially if you're going to be on stage for hours. On one hand, yeah, you could definitely be on stage in a dirty diaper. Sure, you could. But you might get complaints from your other band members, and it might get difficult being incontinent on stage, especially if you're sweating and you're in a small room, a venue. It might get smelly, and that might not be wonderful. So you might have to change more frequently. It might become a complicated situation. And really, it only depends on whether your bandmates can deal with the fact that you have a medical condition. And if they don't, then your bandmates might kick you out. If you're a solo musician, then I guess the only people you got to worry about is the audience. But what I am saying is things can get challenging, especially when you deal with incontinence. Especially having friends. Friends have to deal with the fact that you smell every once in a while. So it's not a perfect situation when you're dealing with incontinence, especially dating might actually get more difficult too. And whether that person can deal with you having incontinence, still a difficult situation that you still have to deal with dating. Luckily for me, when I started dealing with my incontinence situation, I was getting married to a woman who did not care that I had to deal with this situation. In fact, she still loves me regardless, and I'm grateful for that. I thank God for that. I thank God that I have a great woman that still loves me no matter what situation I'm dealing with, especially with health. And she's willing to help me through issues and things that I deal with. Majority of the time, I take care of my own diaper changes. That is what I like to do. That is my personal way of dealing with things. But there have been occasions where when you have a cut on your hand, you're used to changing yourself and using both hands. Well, if you have a big cut on your hand, you can't do that. So you might get that cut infected, and that's a complicated scenario. And I've had to have my wife help me in those situations. But what I'm saying is there's a various different scenarios you could find yourself in dealing with incontinence. Swimming is also another complicated thing. If you're a swimmer and you're now dealing with incontinence, now you got to find products that can help you swim. And if you're going out dating, if you're dealing with your friends, your whole life in a way does change. But on the other hand, you also can't live your life being paranoid all the time. And what do I mean by that? You can't be paranoid that people are going to smell you every freaking time you're going outside. You can't be paranoid about your friends smelling you every time you go in a diaper. You just can't. You can't worry about that. You just got to take care of your business privately. But honestly, what I would recommend, if you have friends, be open about your situation. And if your friends are not willing to hang out with you because you have this medical issue, then they aren't really friends. Just write them off. They aren't your friends. So don't worry about it, because your life is too much of an inconvenience for them. They only care about a superficial way of living. If everything isn't perfect in their life, like, there's people out in this world where they believe, like, well, if my girl isn't pretty, like perfectly pretty, then I'm not going to date them. That's superficial. Yes, everyone has their preferences. That's true. But at the same time, you also can't solely look at relationships on looks, because looks fade. And through life, things change. You also can't look at health the same way, because on one hand, you could be the most healthiest person, and then something could change that, and your whole life is disrupted. Whatever may have caused an accident, whatever the situation may be, you're now in a wheelchair, or you lost your arm, or, something could completely destroy the way your life is. You could also be in a car accident and your face is completely messed up. You're never guaranteed to have perfect health in life. I'm not saying friends have to agree with everything that goes on in your life. Especially choices you make as a person. They may not agree. They may not like that. But when it comes to medical things, friends do have to at least accommodate you dealing with this medical condition. And if they aren't willing to deal with that, then they aren't your friend. And they shouldn't be focusing so much on superficial stuff, because that stuff isn't important anyways. And that's really my point. Things can change in your life, and things can even change in their lives. And if the same thing were to happen to them, they would expect you to be willing to care for them in their situation. And if you're not, then what does that say about you? People often like to think, I want to have perfect friends that have no problems. I want to have a relationship with people where there's no issues with them. They're just the splitting image of me. Guess what? That ain't a friend. Friends are never going to be splitting images of you. And even if they are, you're going to find out that kind of gets boring after a while. And you need to have friends with different opinions, different viewpoints. And also, you're going to have friends with mental issues. You're going to have friends with physical issues, and you just got to deal with it. And the same thing goes with romantic relationships. But my point is, as time goes on, you got to be confident in yourself and in your life with dealing with incontinence. You're not going to have people out there in the world that are going to be comfortable with your situation. And some of them are just going to laugh at you or even make fun of you. It may not happen all the time, but it is going to happen. And you got to deal with that fact. You may not have friends that are willing to be around you. You may not have people that you can have a relationship, a romantic relationship with, that are going to be able to deal with this condition that you have. But what you do is be upfront with any new friendships that you have and friendships you already have. And if they are not willing to be your friend or your romantic partner because you are in this situation, then they aren't willing. They aren't someone to really be in your life, honestly. You just have to get to a point where you're confident in what you're dealing with, whether you get better in it or not. You got to get to a point where you have to accept the fact you're going to be dealing with incontinence for the rest of your life. And it just is what it is. And you have to accept the fact that your diapers are going to make noise. It doesn't matter what diaper you wear. Some of them are going to be crinkler. Some are going to be more crinkly than others. Some of them are going to make noise. I don't care that I wear diapers, but I'm proud to admit that I deal with this situation. And it is part of my life. Is it all my life? No. But it is definitely a big part of my life. And I do have to announce it sometimes when I go places. Not every situation, but, when I'm around certain people, especially if I'm spending a night at a person's house, I do have to announce all these things that I'm dealing with. Because I could be sleeping in a guest bed and they gotta know what to lay down. I also have to prepare for situations like that sometimes. Sometimes it becomes very, very complicated dealing with the continents, with travel and going out. At first, it sucks. Yes, it sucks. You gotta change your whole life, and it revolves around wearing diapers, changing. You have to prepare everywhere you go. You have to bring around a bag, a diaper bag, in my case, a backpack. And you have to pretty much prepare every trip you make, everywhere you go. If you're at your home, it's no big deal. You can change when you need to, take showers when you need to. No big deal. You got to prepare when you go on trips. You got to think about how many diapers you're taking along with you. And if you start doing cloth diapers, that's another added part of your life. It's just a whole nother ball game. You got to deal with washing. It's just a lot of complicated. I may do a video specifically on that down the road, but I'm not going to do one right now. But your whole life does revolve around diapers once you become incontinent. It becomes your life. It adds a lot to your life, but you have to be able to cope with that. Honestly, you do. Some people choose being in ABDL to cope with that. And I totally understand that. But some just want to be an adult and just accept the fact that they wear diapers. And the thing is, yes, you are an adult who wears diapers. You shouldn't have to pretend to be a baby just to accept that fact. See, that's the problem in society. The problem that an adult has to conform to an idea because people won't accept the fact that adults wear diapers too. And also the fact that a lot of times medical places are always trying to shame people and treat this incontinence issue like it's something that needs to be eradicated. Yeah, of course, someone who deals with incontinence does want to be fixed. But if the cures are worse than wearing a diaper, then I much rather not have the cures. Sometimes they give you catheters, and sometimes catheters are definitely something you do need in extreme circumstances, like with bladder retention. Sometimes you really do need to have a catheter in order to pee. But sometimes it causes infections, and it can even, in some cases, open up your urethra to the point that it actually makes your incontinence even worse. So it can make it wider. That's a possibility. And, there's some people that deal with an overactive bladder, an overactive bowel, and they get tired of having to take trips back and forth to the bathroom. So they say, screw it, I'm going to wear diapers. Because it's way better than taking trips back and forth. People do deal with medical issues, and people do want to get help with them. But there are some situations in life where it just becomes a thing that you deal with. or it becomes a thing that you deal with and you decide to deal with it personally the way you want to deal with it. If someone deals with overactive bladder and they don't want to spend so much money on, these incontinence chairs and all these other devices that they have out there to cure incontinence, to just wear a diaper if they want to and not be questioned about it. It's their health. It's their way of life. It's the way they want to deal with their condition. And a person shouldn't be going to the doctor and being shamed for their condition. That's what causes people to not be confident when they have to wear diapers for their condition. But I don't think people who wear diapers should be living their life being miserable every time because they wear diapers. Maybe one day you'll find someone that doesn't care about your situation and will still love you and still care about you. Friend or romantic relationship. Too many people are ashamed of wearing diapers because they're like, I'm an adult. I shouldn't have this problem. This is what kids wear. It's making me feel infantile. So what? So what? You're going to be dealing with this situation. You might as well accept it. And no, you're not a kid. Stop thinking you are. Because honestly, if there is a diaper stigma in this world, it's the one we keep promoting in our own heads. We keep listening to other people that say diapers are just for kids. We keep laughing at people because they crap and pee themselves. But it ain't a luxury living with incontinence. It's not. Definitely. You gotta be confident enough in yourself as a person to be okay with that. You're not a child. You can be an adult and still wear diapers. Stop worrying about what other people think about you. Be you. Be confident. And you can't keep living your life depressed all the time and thinking wearing diapers is the end of the road, the end of your life, because it's not. God bless. Peace out. And don't give up on your life just because you're dealing with incontinence.